Hey, welcome back to ScreenCrush. I'm Ryan Airy, and today we're going to talk about how, when you go back and watch all of Game of Thrones, there was one single element that tied this entire story together, and it was hiding in plain sight the entire time, and that is Aegon's prophecy. That's right, the most important aspect of Game of Thrones was not even introduced in Game of Thrones. So I'm going to explain how every single action in the original show was orchestrated to fulfill this prophecy, and we're going to do something unusual. Instead of just showing clips from the show, I have a visual aid. This is a chest of Game of Thrones items from Game of Thrones Legends, the sponsor of this video. Now, this is a mobile game that I'm obsessed with, and later on I'm going to nerd out about it and tell you guys all about it, what I've been doing on it lately. So, to understand Aegon's prophecy and how it affects characters like Tyrion, Cersei, and Arya Stark, you first have to know that it all starts with this. This thing is so freaking cool. This is a replica of a dragon glass dagger encased in ice. And check this out. It also lights up. Now, this dagger is like the piece of dragon glass that the Children of the Forest used thousands of years ago during their war with the Andals. Remember, that's when they drove a dagger just like this one into the chest of a man, hoping to use him as a weapon against invaders. But instead, this transformed this man into the Night King, the prime zombie who you fight in the opening scene of Game of Thrones Legends. So, the Night King led an army of whites and ice zombies against Westeros, and they were beaten back at Winterfell. Now, this was thousands of years ago, but this is also why in the present day, one of the few things that can kill a White Walker is a dragon glass dagger like this one. So next, let's look at the playing cards that are inside this chest, because these are all playable characters in the game. And we're going to start with Melisandre. Alright, so in the game, you can use Melisandre to attack all your enemies with fire damage, but in Game of Thrones, she is an agent of the Lord of Light. Now, the Lord of Light is an unseen god who is opposed to the Night King. Melisandre is actually hundreds of years old, and she sees visions and prophecies that guide her in the show. And she's actually going to be key to explaining what I mean by Aegon's prophecy explains the entire series. And this is where it gets interesting. And guys, this is why I'm using visual aids from the game and these cards to explain this to you, because the game, Game of Thrones Legends, does a great job of explaining this prophecy. And guys, I have to tell you here, honestly, I love this game. It's become a morning routine for me. I kind of leave it on running in the background while I'm at work. I have become obsessed with it.
Okay, so what is Game of Thrones Legends?
I'm glad you asked, Doug. Game of Thrones Legends is a puzzle RPG where you gather different characters from Game of Thrones into your own house, and you're on a quest to stop the Long Night. Now, as you unlock these champions, you upgrade their special abilities, set up combos, and unlock special weapons and abilities. In fact, this chest is a replica of one of the chests in the game that give you items after you win battles. Now, you can even pair certain characters together for extra bonuses like the Hound and Arya or Jon Snow and Ghost. The game also features special events like the Battle of the Bastards or reclaiming dragon eggs from Daemon's dragon Caraxes the Bloodworm. Now, along the way, you build up your house. In fact, this map shows you what your kingdom looks like in the game. Now, I have just started an alliance called Team ScreenCrush, and you can join and play with me in the game right now. Right now, I'm trying to get King of the North Jon Snow upgraded to level 3 so I can do better in the player versus player raid leaderboard. Seriously, guys, this has become my #1 favorite mobile game, and I think that you'll really like it. Download Game of Thrones Legends by clicking the link in the description or scan this QR code and get 50 gold, 3,000 food, and a daily summon token to start your journey. Summon tokens are how you get special champions, so believe me, this is a really good deal. Now, enough about Melisandre's prophecy. Let's get back to Aegon's prophecy. Remember, Aegon was chilling on Dragonstone and then had a dream where he saw his heir, also named Aegon, uniting the 7 kingdoms of Westeros to fight ice zombies and stop the Long Night. So this led to him conquering Westeros with his dragons. And the power of the dragons seems tied to this idea that they were being used as instruments to fight the oncoming Long Night. So this is the whole reason the Targaryens hold power, so the Lord of Light can one day work through Aegon's heir, marshal the forces of Westeros, and defeat ice zombies. Without this vision, there would have never been an Iron Throne. There never would have been a King's Landing. Now, Aegon carved this prophecy into a Valyrian steel dagger, and in the game, we can see the older version of Alicent holding this same dagger. Now, we know all of this because Viserys told Rhaenyra, another playable character in the game who can summon her dragon in combat. But see, Rhaenyra's story is also about the main theme of the show, that absolute power eventually corrupts absolutely. In fact, it was the Children of the Forest quest for power that corrupted men to become White Walkers in the first place. Now, the character who symbolizes this absolute power corrupting is in the next card, young Alicent Hightower. Now, like a lot of characters in the game, you can play characters at different ages, and this particular version of Alicent is a Mender. This is when she's uncorrupted by power. She is a Hightower, remember, and so she doesn't know the grand purpose of the 7 kingdoms, she doesn't know about Aegon's prophecy, and as a result, she slowly gets lost and corrupted by this power struggle. Now, Her son Aemond is a perfect example of how the Targaryens become obsessed with holding power for themselves instead of fulfilling Aegon's purpose. And this is why, following the Targaryen Civil War, the dragons died out. Their true purpose was to aid the Targaryens in stopping the Long Night. As soon as the Targaryens' main priority became their own power, the dragons' magic stopped serving them. But in the season 2 finale of House of the Dragon, Daemon saw a vision of Daenerys. And this is where we get into two key Targaryens, Daenerys and Aegon VI, also known as Jon Snow.
The King in the North!
Exactly. Now, at this point in history, the Targaryen Civil War had already erased all memory of Aegon's prophecy. The dagger, the physical representation of this prophecy, was owned by Littlefinger, a power-hungry dude who owns a whorehouse. Now, Jon and Daenerys are linked together from birth. They're almost exactly the same age, and they were both refugees from Robert's Rebellion. They have parallel stories in the show, and eventually they become rulers of separate kingdoms, which is just like this Queen Daenerys champion card in the game. By the way, my favorite character in the game by far. She has this mass attack on all her enemies where she breathes fire on them all, and it's like one of the few attacks that hit like everybody at once. She's a great character to get, and she's easy to unlock. You should download the game, it's fun. Now, had Robert's Rebellion not happened, Jon Snow would have eventually been crowned King Aegon VI, but instead he was raised as the bastard of Winterfell. And actually, the game does have 3 playable versions of him. Young Jon, who has just joined the Night's Watch, then we have the Battle of the Bastards version, and my favorite, this one, the King of the North version. So Jon is also a warg, like all of the Stark kids. He has a special mind link to his direwolf, Ghost, similar to how dragon riders bond with their dragons. Also in the game, if you have both of these two together, they have a special attack that's pretty badass. And remember guys, what ultimately brings Jon and Daenerys together in the show is dragon glass, just like this replica. Dragonstone sits on a mountain of dragon glass, and Jon wants to mine it to fight the White Walkers. Now, while the Lord of Light is working to bring about the end of the White Walkers, the old theme of power corrupting absolutely was at work in King's Landing. We have, you love to hate her, Cersei Lannister. Now, she is one of the overall big bads of the series, but like Aegon, everything she does is also motivated by a prophecy. When she was a kid, a witch named Maggie the Frog told her that one day she would become queen, and then her children would die, and she would be replaced by a younger, more beautiful queen. In this case, that turned out to be Daenerys. She was also told that one day her younger brother would kill her. She always believed this to be Tyrion, and so she conspired against him for years. But, like all the great Greek tragedies, her conspiring against Tyrion led to her own downfall. She actually drove him to be with Daenerys, and then her brother helped lead the attack that overthrew his sister's kingdom. Now, this also fits in well with their roles in the game. Tyrion is more of a strategist, and Cersei has an attack where she inflicts extra damage on anyone who attacks her. But then, remember the daggers. Of course, there's the Dragonglass dagger we've already talked about, but there's also Aegon's dagger, the dagger made from Valyrian steel that is a physical symbol of Aegon's prophecy. And that dagger is what eventually manipulates everybody into place to fulfill all of the prophecies of this show. Now remember, Littlefinger used the dagger to frame Tyrion, and that one act led to Joffrey beheading Ned Stark, which started the War of the Five Kings, and that eventually led to Cersei and Daenerys' war together that we see in seasons 7 and 8. But more importantly, that dagger is the reason why Ned Stark was killed. So that dagger made Arya Stark go on the run and become an assassin. That dagger also led to the Boltons overthrowing the Starks, which eventually led to Jon Snow becoming King of the North. And now this is my favorite part. Jon, who remember is Aegon's true heir who bears his name, he becomes King of the North, and this allows him to fulfill Aegon's prophecy by uniting the kingdoms of Westeros to fight against the ice zombies. And what does he do? He brings Daenerys into that battle. And remember, the only reason Jon was around at all was because of Melisandre, the agent of the Lord of Light, who resurrected him from the dead. This is even a special ability of Jon Snow in the game. Once you get to a certain level, when he dies, he'll come back automatically for a few more attacks. Now, to illustrate the importance of the Lord of Light, every day in Game of Thrones Legends, you get a different item at the altar of the Red God. Now remember, Bran Stark is the keeper of all knowledge, so he actually knows all of this, which is why he gave that dagger to Arya. So everything that Jon and Daenerys did, all of the events that this dagger set up were all put in place to bring Arya Stark to an exact time and place where she could use that dagger to kill the Night King and end the Long Night. It's one of the reasons why stealth is one of her abilities in the game. So all of these events conspire to bring Aegon's heir, Aegon VI, Jon Snow, to the exact time and place where he could unite the 7 kingdoms of Westeros. But it was also important that for Aegon's prophecy to be fulfilled, first, the Targaryen dynasty had to fall. The Dance of the Dragons that we see in the show House of the Dragon is showing us that the Targaryens fall prey to the desire and temptation of power. And remember the main theme of the show, that ultimate power corrupts absolutely. So, unlike other Targaryens, like Aemon Targaryen, Jon Snow was not raised to be a king, so he does not want power. So, unlike Daenerys Targaryen, Jon has never been corrupted by that quest for power that ultimately brought down his family. Now, all of this ended with one special dagger, but remember, it all started with another dagger, made of dragon glass, that became the symbol of Game of Thrones' central theme. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Well guys, that was a lot of fun. Remember to download Game of Thrones Legends to get 50 gold, 3,000 food, and a daily summon token by using our link below. Again, I play this game myself all the time. It's really fun. And join our alliance, Team ScreenCrush. I'll be in there. I play every day and we can take down some dragons together. So let me know what you think about this prophecy and about Game of Thrones down in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe and smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.